The holographic chamber stretched endlessly in all directions, filled with the shimmering forms of 847 alien species. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs. Others were clouds of glowing gas that pulsed with light. A few resembled walking crystals that chimed when they moved. They all stared down at the lone human standing in the center of the room. Ambassador Thomas Grant stood perfectly still. His gray suit looked plain and simple compared to the exotic beings surrounding him. Behind him, his assistant Rachel Foster gripped her tablet so hard her knuckles turned white. She wanted to say something, to defend their species, but Thomas had told her to remain silent no matter what happened. At the front of the chamber, High Chancellor Velmac rose from his seat. He was massive, easily 3 times the height of a human, with a body like a praying mantis covered in dark purple armor. His 4 eyes gleamed as he looked down at Thomas. When he spoke, a device in Thomas's ear translated the alien sounds into English. "The vote has concluded," Velmac announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "By a count of 703 votes in favor, the Galactic Council hereby declares Earth and all human colonies exiled from galactic society." A wave of sound rippled through the alien assembly. Some made clicking noises. Others hummed or buzzed. A few remained silent, watching the human ambassador with what might have been sympathy. Thomas didn't move. His face showed nothing. Years of diplomatic training had taught him how to hide his emotions. Velmac continued speaking. "The charges against humanity are clear. You have expanded too aggressively. In only 80 years, you have colonized 4 to 7 star systems. You build weapons when we ask for peace. You refuse to accept the harmony protocols that limit how fast species can grow and advance. You are dangerous and unpredictable." More alien voices rose in agreement. Thomas could see some of them nodding, or making gestures that probably meant the same thing in their cultures. "Therefore," Velmac said, "humanity has 10 standard years to withdraw from all border zones. All trade agreements with Council species are terminated immediately. All diplomatic relations are severed. No human ship may enter Council space. No Council ship may enter human space. This exile is permanent and will never be reconsidered." The chamber fell silent, waiting for the human's response. Thomas took a slow breath. Then he stepped forward and looked directly at Velmac. His voice was calm and steady, without a trace of anger or fear. "We understand completely, High Chancellor. Thank you for making your position clear." He paused for just a moment. "You won't hear from us again." Before Velmac could respond, Thomas cut the transmission. The holographic chamber vanished, leaving Thomas and Rachel standing in the small communications room aboard their ship. Rachel finally spoke, her voice shaking. "They just exiled us. The entire human race. How can you be so calm?" Thomas allowed himself a small smile. "Because they just freed us, Rachel. They don't see it yet, but we do." Within hours, emergency broadcasts went out across all human worlds. On Earth, on Mars, on the distant colonies orbiting other stars, people gathered around screens to watch President Margaret Wells speak from the Capitol building in Geneva. She was a strong woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen 50 years of politics. She didn't look afraid. She looked angry. "My fellow citizens," she began, "today the Galactic Council made a choice based on fear. They see our strength and call it aggression. They see our progress and call it danger. They see our independence and call it a threat." Across human space, millions watched in silence. "They have given us 10 years to retreat and disappear. But we're not going to retreat. We're going to prepare. Not for war, but for something better. Independence. True independence. We don't need their technology. We don't need their trade routes. We don't need their permission to exist." President Wells leaned forward, her hands flat on the podium. "Starting today, Protocol Exodus is active. We're going dark. We're going silent. Every resource, every brilliant mind, every ounce of effort will go toward building a future without the Council. We will prove that humanity doesn't need anyone's approval to thrive." She paused, letting her words sink in. "And when the galaxy sees us again, they'll understand their mistake. They didn't exile us. They set us free." The broadcast ended. In orbit above Earth, Admiral David Cooper stood on the bridge of the warship Defiance, watching the last Council trade ship leave human space. His second officer asked quietly, "Sir, are we really doing this? Complete isolation from the galaxy?" David watched the alien ship jump away, its engines creating a brief tear in space before it vanished. "Not isolation," he said. "Evolution. When we come back, we'll be stronger than they can imagine." 100 years had passed since humanity went silent. The Galactic Council had almost forgotten about them. On the beautiful crystal towers of the Tellarian homeworld, scholars wrote about the human exile in their history books. They called it a lesson about species that grew too fast and burned themselves out. The humans had probably collapsed without council support, they wrote. Maybe they were even extinct now. High Chancellor Corthan, who ruled the council now, rarely thought about the quarantined human sectors. When his intelligence minister gave him the latest report, he barely looked at it. The humans haven't sent a single transmission in 98 years, the minister said. Their colonies appear empty. No ships. No communications. Nothing. Good, Corthan replied, his crystalline body flashing with satisfaction. File it away. But the galaxy was completely wrong about what humanity had been doing. Far beyond council space, on a research station called Prometheus, Dr. Elizabeth Hayes stared at her computer screen. She had been looking at the same test results for hours, afraid to believe what they showed. Run it again, she told her team. Her voice was shaking slightly. I need to be absolutely certain this works. Peter Morgan, her lead engineer, nodded and started the sequence. The experimental engine in the center of the lab hummed to life. Space around it began to bend and twist in impossible ways. The laws of physics seemed to break and reform. The jump field is stable, Peter announced, reading the instruments. No problems. No dangerous radiation. Elizabeth, this actually works. We did it. Elizabeth allowed herself to smile. For 30 years she had worked on this project. The quantum slipstream drive. A way for human ships to jump between stars without using the Council's gate network. Faster than Council technology. More efficient. And completely independent. How long until we can put it in a real ship, she asked. 6 months for a test ship. Maybe 2 years before we can build them for the whole fleet. Elizabeth nodded. 100 years of isolation had forced humanity to a simple choice. Innovate or die. They had chosen to innovate, and now they were succeeding beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Across human space, similar breakthroughs were happening everywhere. On the colony world called New Terra, Commander James Mitchell walked through massive domes filled with crops. Wheat and corn grew in soil that had never seen Earth's sun. The plants looked healthier and stronger than any natural crop. Production is up 30% this quarter, his chief farmer reported proudly. The genetic modifications worked perfectly. Any problems with the modified plants? James asked. None at all, sir. They grow faster, need less water, and survive in conditions that would kill normal crops. We're completely self-sufficient now. Actually, we're producing enough to export food to other colonies. James smiled. When the exile began, New Terra could barely feed its own people. The Council had expected humans to starve without their supply networks. Instead, humanity had learned to grow food in places where nothing should survive. At a military base called Armstrong Station, young pilot Rebecca Turner sat in an experimental fighter cockpit. She closed her eyes and activated the neural implant in her brain. Suddenly, she could feel the ship around her like it was part of her own body. Neural link established, a technician announced. All systems responding. Rebecca thought about firing the engines. Instantly, the engines fired. She imagined rolling the ship left. The ship rolled left before she could blink. Her mind and the machine had become one thing. Response time is 0.03 seconds, the technician said with awe. That's 10 times faster than any pilot using manual controls. Rebecca disconnected, feeling dizzy for a moment. How many pilots can handle this? About 60% with proper training. The others can't process the information fast enough. 60%. That meant humanity could field thousands of pilots whose reaction times would make them seem like they could see the future compared to alien pilots. On a research ship called Pioneer, Dr. William Reed watched a glowing crystal pulse with soft blue light. Inside the crystal, an artificial brain made of quantum circuits processed information faster than any normal computer could dream of. Good morning, Dr. Reed, a warm voice said from the crystal. I've finished analyzing yesterday's data. Would you like my report? William and his assistant Catherine Ross exchanged amazed looks. They had done it. They had created true artificial intelligence. The Council said it was impossible. The Council said it was too dangerous. The Council had banned all research into conscious machines. Humanity had done it anyway. Back on Earth, President Henry Marshall reviewed reports from across human space. 308 star systems now belonged to humanity. Most were in regions the Council thought were worthless. Stars that were too hot or too cold. Planets with too much radiation. Asteroid fields that were too dangerous to mine. Humanity had learned to live in all of them. His science advisor gave him the summary. Sir, we've advanced faster in 1 century than we did in the previous 3. Without the Council's restrictions telling us what we couldn't do, we've made incredible breakthroughs. How many people did we lose? Henry asked quietly. The advisor hesitated. 2.3 million over the past century. Research accidents. Colony failures. Experimental disasters. Henry closed his eyes. 2 million dead. The price of moving too fast, of taking risks that more cautious species would never accept. Make sure their names are remembered, he said. They died so humanity could be free. Deep in space, far from any known star, a generation ship called Horizon's End drifted through the darkness. 10,000 people lived aboard it, born in space and dying in space, traveling to a destination their great-grandchildren might finally reach. Captain George Watson studied the star charts. Their target lay 40 more years ahead. Why are we doing this? His daughter had asked him once. George had smiled. Because out here, we're free to become whatever we need to be. Humanity wasn't hiding. They were preparing. And soon, the galaxy would see what 100 years of freedom had created. Captain Richard Stone stood on the bridge of his mining ship, watching his crew extract precious materials from the spinning neutron star below. The Fortune's claim wasn't a military vessel, but it was equipped with the best technology humanity had developed over the past century. His crew of 80 worked smoothly, using gravity harvesters to collect exotic matter from the star's crushing magnetic field. We'll fill the cargo hold in 3 days at this rate, his operations officer reported. Richard nodded, satisfied. This neutron star alone would provide enough fuel to power an entire colony world for 5 years. The Council had always told humanity these stars were too dangerous to approach. Humanity had learned to harvest them anyway. Captain, his sensor officer interrupted, tension clear in her voice. Multiple ships just appeared. 15 light seconds away and coming closer fast. What kind of ships? Council military. VRYNN collective. 12 cruisers. They're big ones. Richard felt his stomach tighten. The VRYNN were aggressive and young, always trying to prove themselves to the older Council species. This could go badly. Raise shields. Get everyone to battle stations, but don't power up weapons yet. The communication channel crackled with harsh alien sounds that the computer translated into English. Human vessel, you are violating Council space. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded. Richard took a deep breath and opened a reply channel. This is Captain Richard Stone of the Terran Expeditionary Forces. You're mistaken. This system is beyond Council territory. We're conducting legal mining operations in Terran space. A long pause followed. There is no Terran space. Your species was exiled. You exist only because we allow it. Richard smiled thinly. Is that what they teach you now? Let me explain something. The exile was mutual. We left. You stayed away. This sector has been under our control for 70 years. Check your maps and leave peacefully. Your arrogance ends now. We're charging weapons. Surrender or die. Richard looked at his tactical officer and nodded. Activate defensive systems. The VRYNN ships opened fire. Dozens of plasma bolts streaked through space, each one hot enough to vaporize a normal ship. It should have been overwhelming. 12 military warships against 1 mining vessel. An easy victory. Instead, the Fortune's claims point defense grid came alive. Hundreds of tiny railguns tracked the incoming fire with perfect computer precision. Every plasma bolt was intercepted and destroyed before it could reach the shields. Laser beams dissipated energy weapons. Not a single shot hit the Fortune's claim. The VRYNN must have been shocked, but they kept firing. Target their engines, Richard ordered calmly. Disable them, but don't kill anyone if we can avoid it. The Fortune's claim's main railgun fired once. The tungsten projectile accelerated to 30% of light speed. When it hit the lead VRYNN cruiser, it punched through the shields like they weren't there and slammed into the engine core. The ship went dark, powerless and drifting. The railgun fired again. And again. Each shot was surgically precise. 14 minutes after the battle began, all 12 VRYNN cruisers were floating dead in space. Disabled but intact. Their crews were alive but helpless. Richard opened a wide transmission to all the VRYNN ships. VRYNN vessels, this is Captain Stone. Your ships are disabled but your people are safe. I've activated your emergency beacons. Rescue ships will reach you in 2 days. When you return home, give your leaders this message. Humanity respected the exile. We left peacefully. We expect the same courtesy. The next force that enters our space without permission won't be treated so gently. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Resume mining operations. And someone send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them the isolation period just ended. 6 days later, on the VRYNN homeworld, Fleet Admiral Kelvar stood before the VRYNN High Council. His body trembled with humiliation and rage. One ship, he roared, slamming his fist on the table. A mining ship. It defeated 12 of our best cruisers. The council members sat in uncomfortable silence. They had all watched the battle recordings. The human technology was far beyond what anyone expected. How did they advance so far? Council leader Thran demanded. We thought they collapsed after the exile. Obviously they didn't collapse, Kelvar growled. They evolved. While we grew comfortable behind council protection, they built weapons we can't match. What should we do? Kelvar forced himself to breathe slowly. We informed the Galactic Council immediately. This isn't just our problem anymore. If humans have grown this strong, the entire galaxy needs to know. 2 weeks later, High Chancellor Corthan reviewed the VRYNN combat footage for the 3rd time. His crystalline body flickered with distressed light patterns. This is impossible, he whispered. It happened, his military advisor stated flatly. Human technology has surpassed ours in multiple areas. Their defensive systems, their weapons, their targeting computers. All superior to what we have. In just 100 years. Necessity drives innovation, Chancellor. Without our support, they had to advance or die. They chose to advance. Corthan felt cold dread spreading through his crystalline structure. How many systems do they control now? We've detected human activity in over 300 star systems. Most are in regions we considered uninhabitable. They've mastered extreme environment technology. 300 systems, Corthan repeated slowly. Built while we weren't watching. Chancellor, there's more. The advisor brought up another report. Several minor council species are sending secret messages to human space. The Kithari are seeking help against their Azar-3 masters. The H-Rune are requesting asylum from genocide. At least 6 other species are making contact with humans. Corthan understood immediately. For 10,000 years, the council had maintained peace through strict control. No species could grow too powerful. No one could challenge the established order. Now humanity had broken free. And worse, they were offering other species the same freedom. Call an emergency council session, Corthan ordered. We need to decide how to respond before this situation destroys everything we've built. And if the council votes for war? Corthan was silent for a long moment. Then we'll discover exactly how strong humanity has become. And I'm afraid we won't like the answer. Director Valant stared at the holographic map floating above his desk. Red dots marked confirmed human systems. Yellow showed probable human activity. Blue indicated places where humans had been detected but not confirmed. The map was covered in color like a disease spreading across the galaxy. 308 confirmed systems, his chief analyst reported nervously. Another 74 probables. We think there are at least 40 more we haven't found yet. How is this possible? Valant demanded, his voice rising. We've had scout ships searching for 6 months. Sir, the humans are living in places we never thought anyone could survive. Red giant systems with deadly radiation. Binary star systems where gravity pulls ships apart. Even rogue planets floating in the darkness between stars. They're everywhere we thought was empty. Valant scrolled through the reports, feeling more disturbed with each page. Human colonies on planets where one side burned while the other froze. Space stations orbiting pulsars that should kill anyone who got close. Underground cities on moons bathed in lethal radiation. They're like insects, Valant muttered. No sir, the analyst corrected carefully. They are survivors. They went where no one would look and learned to thrive there. Another analyst brought up technical diagrams. We've analyzed their technology from the VRYNN battle. Sir, they've made breakthroughs we didn't think were possible. The hologram showed human ship designs and weapon systems that looked alien even compared to Council technology. Their railguns use electromagnetic fields we've never seen. Their computers process information faster than our best quantum systems. They've created artificial intelligence despite how dangerous it is. And this? The analyst highlighted an engine design. This appears to be a jump drive that works without our gate network. Valant felt fear creep through him. They can jump independently? Yes, sir. If this is real, humans can travel anywhere without needing our gates. They don't depend on us for anything. The implications hit Valant hard. The Council's entire power structure was built on controlling the jump gates. Every species needed Council permission to travel between stars. That control maintained peace and order for 10,000 years. If humanity could jump freely, that control meant nothing. What else have they done? Valant asked quietly. Genetic modifications that let them survive extreme environments. Neural implants that connect their brains directly to computers. Medical technology that repairs injuries we'd consider fatal. Enhanced reflexes, better thinking, longer lives. The analyst paused. Sir, they're not just advancing their technology. They're changing themselves. Making themselves into something new. And their military strength. We estimate 6,000 combat ships within 3 months if they mobilize fully. Their factories are running at impossible levels. They're spending 40% of everything they produce on military and research. Valant couldn't believe it. 40%? That would bankrupt any normal civilization. Humans aren't normal, sir. They're willing to sacrifice and suffer if they believe it's necessary. Their entire culture celebrates giving up comfort for the group's survival. How do we stop them? The analyst looked uncomfortable. I don't think we can, sir. Not without a war that kills millions on both sides. In the council chamber, High Chancellor Corthan called an emergency session. 300 species filled the room, all talking at once. Order. Corthan's voice boomed through the translation systems. We face a crisis unlike anything in 10,000 years. The humans have returned, and they're not what we expected. The displays showed the intelligence reports. Human systems, technologies, military strength. They are a threat, the Azathri representative shouted. We must destroy them now before they grow stronger. They've done nothing aggressive, the Talarian diplomat argued. They're just expanding into empty space. They disabled 12 VRYNN warships. Because the VRYNN attacked first. The humans let everyone live. That shows restraint. The chamber erupted in shouting. Corthan let it continue before calling for silence. The reality is simple, he stated. Humanity achieved in 100 years what takes most species thousands of years. They did it because we gave them no choice. Now we must decide how to respond. Military action, the Azathri demanded. Diplomacy, the Talarian countered. The debate raged for hours. But Corthan noticed something troubling. Several smaller species stayed quiet, watching with calculating eyes. After the session, his intelligence director approached privately. Chancellor, we have a serious problem. Another one? The Kid Harry have officially asked humanity for help. They are citing oppression by the Azathri Empire and requesting refuge in human space. Corthan felt his core temperature drop. And humanity's answer? Unknown yet. But our sources say they're seriously considering it. If humanity accepted the Kid Harry, it would challenge council authority directly. The Azathri would see it as war. Other oppressed species would follow. The council's carefully maintained balance would shatter. On Earth, President Robert Harrison read the Kid Harry request carefully. His cabinet waited in tense silence. What's their situation? He asked. The Kid Harry were conquered 200 years ago, Secretary Ellen Brooks explained. They're used to slaves. Their worlds are strip-mined. The council knows but does nothing because the Azathri are powerful. How many Kid Harry exist? 8 billion on their homeworld. 2 billion more scattered across mining colonies. Sir, helping them means fighting the Azathri Empire, Defense Secretary Michael Grant warned. That could mean war with the entire council. Or, Harrison countered, it's our chance to show the galaxy there's an alternative to council rule. We're not ready for galactic war. Aren't we? Harrison brought up displays showing humanity's military readiness and industrial capacity. We spent a century preparing. If we back down now, we admit the council was right to exile us. We admit we'll always be beneath them. Secretary Brooks leaned forward. If we help the Kid Harry, other oppressed species will come to us. We'll become a rallying point for everyone unhappy with the council. That could split the galaxy. Good, Harrison said firmly. The council maintains peace by crushing anyone who threatens their power. They limit technology, restrict growth, and allow slavery as long as it doesn't disrupt their control. That's not peace. That's tyranny. He stood and walked to the window. Draft a response to the Kit Harry. Tell them humanity welcomes all who seek freedom. Any species willing to join the Terran Frontier Compact will receive our protection. We will not allow slavery or genocide in our space. Mr. President, Grant said carefully, that's basically declaring we're creating our own power block opposing the Council. Yes, Harrison agreed. The Council exiled us because we wouldn't submit. Fine. We'll build something better. And we'll offer it to anyone brave enough to choose freedom. They'll see this as war. Let them. They've dictated terms for 10,000 years. Now they'll learn there's an alternative. Admiral Korvax of the Azathri Empire led 140 warships into the Kitha system with complete confidence. Humans were primitives, barely worth his attention. This would be quick and easy. A demonstration to teach the galaxy not to challenge Council authority. All ships, battle formation, Korvax ordered from his command deck. Target the human vessels. Leave nothing but wreckage. His tactical officer frowned at his instruments. Admiral, the human ships are showing unusual energy patterns. Irrelevant. We outnumber them 7-1. Open fire. The Azathri fleet unleashed everything. Plasma torpedoes, fusion missiles, and particle beams filled space with deadly light. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Then reality seemed to tear apart. The Terran ships vanished and reappeared inside the Azathri formation. The maneuver was impossible. Ships couldn't jump so precisely or so quickly. But human ships could. Admiral Margaret Collins commanded from the dreadnought Defiant Freedom, her neural implant connecting her mind directly to the ship's systems. She gave orders as calmly as if discussing the weather. All ships, execute Protocol Raptor. Target weapons and engines only. Minimize casualties. The Terran railguns fired. Projectiles accelerated to speeds that bent physics. Each shot hit with surgical precision. Not destroying ships, but crippling them. Weapons exploded. Engines went dark. Command centers were disabled. The Azathri tried to fight back, but their ships moved like they were stuck in mud compared to human vessels. Pilots with neural links reacted 10 times faster than anyone using manual controls. AI-assisted targeting predicted where enemy ships would be before they got there. 23 Terran ships dismantled 140 Azathri warships in 47 minutes. Not a single human vessel took serious damage. Admiral Korvax sat on his powerless command deck, emergency lights flickering, when his communication system crackled to life. Admiral Korvax, Collins's voice was cold and professional. Your fleet is disabled. Your crews are alive. Emergency beacons are active. I'm transmitting coordinates where Council rescue ships can safely retrieve you. You? How dare you? I dare defend people who asked for our help, Collins interrupted. The Kit Harry are under Terran protection now. Any more Azathri aggression will face increasingly severe consequences. Remember that when you get home. The transmission ended. Korvax sat in darkness, the weight of his defeat crushing down on him. The humans hadn't just won. They had made it look effortless. 3 days later, the Council chamber descended into chaos. They destroyed an entire Azathri fleet. This is war. We must respond with overwhelming force. High Chancellor Corthan tried to maintain order as species shouted over each other. The Azathri demanded immediate military action. The VRYNN called for total war. Dozens of species agreed. But an equal number remained silent or urged caution. The humans could have killed everyone, the Talarian representative noted. They chose not to. That suggests they don't want genocide. They want to destroy the Council, an Azathri delegate roared. No, a new voice spoke. The H-Rune representative, from a species that had suffered persecution for centuries, stood up. They're offering an alternative. Every eye turned to her. The Council has rules, she continued. No species may expand too fast. No technology may advance too quickly. No military may grow too large. These rules maintain peace, we're told. But they also keep us weak. They keep us dependent. They ensure no one can challenge the powerful species. That is order, Corthan stated firmly. That is control, the H-Rune countered. And many of us are tired of it. Humans broke free of that control. Now they're offering us the same choice. Murmurs spread through the chamber, some angry, some thoughtful. If we go to war with humanity, we'll lose, the H-Rune continued. Maybe not today, but eventually. They advance too fast, adapt too quickly. Or we could acknowledge that their way works. That freedom drives progress. That the Council's 10,000-year reign might not be the only path. The chamber exploded in arguments. Cawthon called for recess before violence erupted. On New Terra, President Robert Harrison addressed representatives from 23 species who had joined the Terran Frontier Compact in just 3 months. The Kit Harry sat in honored positions. The H-Rune had sent envoys. Smaller species that lived under Council oppression now saw hope. The Council will call us rebels, Harrison stated. They'll say we're disrupting galactic peace. But we're not the ones who enslaved species. We're not the ones who allow genocide when it's politically convenient. We're not the ones who restrict technology to maintain control. He gestured to the assembled delegates representing different alien species. The Frontier Compact has one rule: genuine sovereignty. Every species here is free to govern themselves, advance their technology, expand their territory, as long as they respect the same freedoms for others. No slavery. No conquest. No forced stagnation. A Kit Harry delegate stood nervously. What if the Council attacks with 1,000 ships? Then we fight, Harrison said simply. And we win. Because we have something they don't. A reason to fight beyond maintaining power. We're fighting for the right to determine our own futures. Another delegate asked carefully, what if we don't want to fight? What if we just want peace? Then you live in peace, Harrison assured him. The Frontier Compact doesn't require military service. We only ask that you respect others' freedom as we respect yours. Focus on art, science, philosophy. Others will provide security. The Council would never allow that, the delegate said quietly. Exactly. That's why we're building something different. 20 years passed. The galaxy had changed forever. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was smaller now. The hardline species clung to their core worlds, maintaining the old ways. But progressive species had opened diplomatic relations with the Frontier Compact. Trade flowed between the two groups. Technology was shared. Ideas crossed boundaries. The Frontier Compact now included over 100 species and controlled territory rivaling the Council's. Not through conquest, but through choice. Species joined because they wanted freedom, not because they were forced. On Earth, an elderly Margaret Collins stood in a park, watching children play. Human children and alien children together, learning from each other. A young reporter approached her. Admiral Collins, people say the Exile was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. Do you agree? Margaret smiled, thinking back to that day 120 years ago when Ambassador Thomas Grant stood alone before the Council. The Council thought Exile was punishment, she said. They thought we'd collapse without them. Instead, they freed us. They freed us to become what we truly could be. Not subjects. Not followers. But partners. Equals. And we offered that same freedom to anyone brave enough to take it. She looked up at the sky where human and alien ships traveled together through the stars. They didn't exile us, Margaret said softly. They liberated us. And we used that liberation to change the galaxy. The reporter thanked her and left. Margaret sat on a bench, content. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had simply shown there was another way. And billions across the stars had chosen that path. The exile had ended. But the freedom it created would last forever.